Hello everyone, in this episode I will be creating my first real web application, a thumbnail generator that I'll be using for my own videos. We will be coding everything in AI and by the end you can see it working live. In the last episodes we've learned how to set up Cursor, create a website, use GitHub and deploy through Vercel. But now we're taking the next step and we're going to program a real web application. First, we're going to look at setting up the project in a good way. We're going to install all the right packages and make sure the folder structure is professional. Then we're going to visualize our app, our UI with Excalidraw. Next, we're going to look into validation. We're going to define a sort schema and hook it into the React hook form so the app knows when inputs are valid. After that, we will connect the form to the real generation step and to actually show different variation of the thumbnail. And in the end, we will give a little bit of a live demo and polish the UI. We're going to start fresh and create a Next.js project and install all the frameworks that are necessary. In particular, we're gonna install a few UI and styling packages like Tailwind CSS and Shadson UI and Sonner. We are gonna focus on the front-end aspect of the app, and in the next episode we will add the backend. All right, we open Cursor, and the first thing that we have to do is to add a new clean folder. I created that with the name of Vibe Thumbnail Generator app, and I will open that folder. So now we'll see that folder is up here and named correctly, and we have a blank sheet. So the first thing that we need to do is installing the right packages and a Next.js project. To do so, I'm going to open the terminal. I'm going to start the Claude agent. As you have learned already in the other episodes, yes, we trust Claude to proceed, and we have our Claude agent open in the terminal that will help us installing all the packages. So I copied already the first prompt and will paste it here just to quickly go through it. You are a senior Next.js engineer. Create a new Next.js project named Thumbnail Generator with TypeScript, Tailwind CSS, and ESLint. As you know, those are the packages that we always start with. TypeScript is a JavaScript package. Tailwind CSS are global styling settings, such as font sizes and colors. And ESLint is to check the code. This Shadson package has a lot of components for, as it says, the UI. It has buttons, it has forms, it has drop-down menus, and so on. So we can draw back from that and don't have to create it from scratch, and the website will look good. Then Lucide React has icons. We will install that package also. We will install the Sonner package. This is primarily for pop-up messages, as I learned. So the React hook form creates the form and also checks the state, whether something is typed in or not. And then the sort package is your rulebook that says that only certain values are allowed. So if you want to put in a color, you cannot put in a name or something like that. It's kind of the rulebook to make sure that all the inputs the user is giving our app are also valid inputs. So this is how we initialize, and we let the Claude agent run us through. So now, step by step, those folders will be created and those packages will be installed in the folder that we have just uploaded here on the left side. Now it's creating the Next.js project with all the packages installed that we mentioned. Okay, now the next step is to install Lucide React and Sonner and hook form, React hook form. Yes, we also want to install that. As you can see, those are 168 packages. With those packages, it's very important that we're not going to use all of them. We're just going to draw from the things that we want to implement into our application. And that's also why we will need to have a git ignore file, which puts all the files of those packages that we don't want to use into the ignore file. So when we push the code, we basically don't have a bunch of unnecessary code and information and files also there that we always push into our repositories. But for now, we're installing the entire packages, and then we will draw on the things that we might need, depending on the needs of our web application. Here's the confirmation message from the Cloud agent that the project has been created. We installed Next.js with TypeScript, Tailwind CSS, and Eslin, Lucide React, Sonner, React hook form sort, well, as we instructed. And from the chats and UI components, we added the button, the input, the form, the card, the Sonner toast component, which are pop-up messages, and the label. So looks really great. So now if we look at the folder structure, we will see that all the packages are installed, and it's a very good starting point for our app. This is how we will start most of our projects, especially with web applications. Now that we have installed all the packages, we also want a clean folder structure. So I prepared another prompt regarding the folder structure with ChatGPT. So let me paste the second prompt, which is create a clean project structure with two main folders, frontend and backend. Inside frontend, create app, lib, public, and styles. Inside the backend, root, service, and lib. We will only work in the frontend today and leave the backend untouched for episode 6. Well, for next episode. Let's send this and let the agent on top of the packages now create a clean frontend and backend folder structure. Now, after running a bunch of commands, we have the folder structure we wanted. We want the front end and the back end separated. Today, we're going to work on the front end, and we have all the packages and everything that we have installed before within the front end folder. We open the back end. We have here a simple folder structure that we will look on the next time. And in the front end, we have the folder structure with all the packages installed, and the app is pretty much ready to go. The last step, write a PRD document. As it reads, write a concise PRD, product requirements document for this project. The goal, build the front end of an AI thumbnail generator app, include user story, key features, success criteria, dependencies, and all of that stuff. Let's give it that. And then below the README, I believe we should be seeing a PRD document, and then I will ask the agent that based on the PRD document, on the planning document, that it should write a task MD file. And then we're all ready and set to start coding. There you go. It has created a PRD. It has summarized it here, but we have the file, as I said, down here, and looks good. There's an overview. Let's make it a bit bigger. There's an overview, a front-end application that allows users to generate AI-powered thumbnails for videos, articles, and social media content. The user story, key features, thumbnail configuration form, real-time preview, sample gallery, generation history, success criteria. Well, again, the folder structure is in here as well. Looks very good to me. All right, last step, based on the PRD, we will create a task MD file. Again, I prepared a proper prompt with ChatGPT. It reads, create a task MD file based on the PRD and the current folder structure. Include checkbox task 4, creating core components, implementing mock API, adding UX polish, testing front-end flow. Keep the format concise and use Markdown checklist for each task. Again, a perfect created prompt that will create us a task MD file, which should also pop up down here. And then between the PRD and the task MD file, those are two essential elements of the planning of our project that the agent can draw on, act on, and will just execute much more precisely, less hallucinations, less mistakes, can also follow the progress along in a structured way. All right, great. The task MD file is being created. All right, I've created a comprehensive task MD file. Looks great. We can click on it. We see it here, and you can see that the project setup is already checked. But now we come to the different chapters of things that we need to be doing. And like this, we already have a execution plan. All right, that brings us to the end of chapter 1. We have a professional and clean folder structure setup with everything installed that we need. Now let's have a look at the sketch that we did for chapter 2. In this chapter, I just want to show you that if you visualize your UI or general layout of your web application, it helps the agent to create your vision directly a little bit better. I've put my rough idea on Excalibur, how I envision my website and web app to look. I want to see the thumbnail very big in the middle of the screen. I want to be able to add a file if I want to iterate and change a thumbnail that I already have created, or my inspiration that I want to be using, or I want to create a thumbnail from scratch and then iterate from there. I want to see the different versions below it. So I would always have the latest version on the left or the latest version in the thumbnail window. Below that, I should be able to add a prompt, how I want the thumbnail to change or what I want to create. And here can be a tab for additional settings. So in that sense, that's my idea, how roughly the MVP could look. I will screenshot this and save it and then give it to the agent in Cursor. Like this, I will get a more close representation of what I have in mind from the start. All right, now we're back in Cursor and I will use the agent on the right hand side because I want to drag and drop my picture, and that only works with the chat. It doesn't work in the terminal. And I will pair it with a prompt that I will copy quickly here from ChatGPT. You are a senior front-end engineer. I attached a sketch of the app layout. That's not exactly how I called it, so I will delete that. Use it as a reference. Create the main layout in front-end app thumb page ticks. The top section is the generate form header. The bottom is the variant grid showing generated thumbnails. Keep it responsive and centered with marks, Ys, and padding. Use Tailwind and Chats in UI for structure. I think this prompt as such sounds very good. And after this, once it has created that, I think we can have a first look on something tangible. Okay, perfect. The main layout is done. It has created some pages, some TSX files. It has written a bunch of code. We will just accept all of those. And then it says, perfect, I've successfully created the main layout for your thumbnail generator app based on your sketch. Very nice. Main container structure, component hierarchy, breakdown, responsive design and features, and chats and UI integrations. Very nice. So here we see the page TSX being created and other code files being created here in our Next.js app. Yeah, very nice. So I just opened the link, and as you can see, there's still the initial state of the application that says hello world. We're not seeing yet the structure implemented. I will ask the agent why. So I opened the localhost in the front end, but all I could see was the hello world page. I haven't seen any of the structure implemented yet. Can you let me know why and what I need to be doing to fix that? Okay, the agent sees the issue. That's good. You're seeing the default Next.js hello world page because you're accessing the root. We create the thumbnail generator page in the root group. He made some changes and now we should see it if we refresh. Okay, I opened the page again and now it looks much better. Here will be the main thumbnail. I will add a file or create. Here I will have my versions, my prompt, my settings. Yeah, almost there. The versions are obviously what are in the result VIP right now. That's obviously wrong. We can also maybe adjust that. All right, I can see currently that there is version 123 now below the main window, which is great. But these are supposed to be the solutions, the outcomes that are currently below everything. So maybe we can integrate that in the design correctly. All right, one more step to update this. So I want these variants to be here shown. Now that looks much better. Okay, we can see here live updating. So now it looks much better. So this is much more what I had intended. Here's the thumbnail, add file or create. Here I see the different versions. Now we're getting something. All right, fantastic. Okay, let's move into the next chapter and generate some forms and make this all a little bit more interactive. Now we are in chapter 3. We have our basic layout in place, but it is not functional yet. By implementing the sort schema, we so give our app a brain. We give it a bunch of rules that it can follow and understand the inputs that the user will give and make sure that all inputs are valid. All right, for this step, we will open a new terminal. We will start our Claude agent again. There you go. And we will go through a prompt that I have prepared. All right, since the prompt is a bit longer, what happens if I paste the prompt here, it gets hard and we can't see it until I send it off. But let me send it off and then we will have a look. All right, let's have a closer look at the prompt that I just sent. It says, create a new file frontend lib validator TS that exports a sort schema. Exactly. So we want a sort schema to be installed. It will install certain rules like the mode, the title, colors, basically all input forms, layout, preset, style, the prompt, basic rules to follow, making sure that everything is fine. So do you want this file to be created? Yes, we want that file to be created. Now it's creating these files with the rules, giving the application those rule book before we implement the functionality will make the latter step much quicker and much easier to implement. I have created the frontend lib validators file with a complete sort schema that includes all of the rules that we have prepared. That's very nice. So if we want a certain color to be used for the thumbnail, it understands the hex format, I believe. If it's a prompt, it would understand a normal message and so on and so forth. So I think we're good here and we can already move on to the next chapter. All right, chapter 4. We're going to add some functionality in our working schema. We're going to make the form come alive, and we're also going to connect it to our sort schema, our rulebook that we have just created before. We're going to open a fresh terminal. We're going to type Claude, initialize the Claude agent again, and I'm going to copy the build from ChatGPT. Okay, here we can actually now see it. Let's have a look and read it together quickly so you have an idea also what's happening. You are a senior React Next.js engineer working in front-end. Goal, implement generate form component. Use React hook form with sort resolver from front-end. It is basically, as far as I understand, taking the rules that we have created and putting those into a form. Okay, let's say yes. After this next step, we can already upload a thumbnail of ours and we can see how that's working after the agent is done. Yeah, as we can see actually here, the agent was doing some research and reading a bunch of files before the agent is actually changing code in certain files. It needs to have a proper understanding of the code base and where we stand. This is a bit of a longer step since we are adding functionality to the entire page. This is a bit more intensive coding required, but again, we don't write a line of code. The AI agent is doing it all for us. And that's why it's so exciting to code with AI, because I've been only doing this since a few weeks and I can already get real results like you saw in my past episode, like on my website, or now even creating my first application. Amazing. Now everything has worked. The build succeeded. Let me update the to-do list and reflect completion. Perfect. I've successfully implemented the generation form component. Here's a summary of what's completed. We have a generate form. We have an upload zone, a UI component. Well, honestly, let's just have a look how the app looks now. The thumbnail generator looks like this. I can choose the mode, iterate, create, get a YouTube URL. I can upload a file. Let's try that for a second. Okay, it opened a window here that I can open a PNG file, and look at that. I can upload a file. I can analyze my colors. Probably I can change this. Layout, bold, iterations. I can choose how many Okay, I can type a title, episode 1. Oops. Okay, that's also interactive. And let's see if I can also drag and drop the same file. Works now. That would be good. The drag and drop works as well. I can exit away. If I use a color code, I don't know the color codes now, but I'm sure that seems to be functional. In the create mode, if I write a prompt and leave it empty and press generate, it gives an error message. So this is the thought schema that we wrote the rules that it won't accept an empty prompt and an empty title. So that's what we created just before this chapter, and it so far seems functional. I'm very happy with this status. Now let's actually do something and let the agent update the task MD, and then we're also gonna save the status of the project. We haven't done that yet. Okay, very nice. This has been working now. Most tests we applied and it seems to be working well. Please update the task MD file and git init. We need to start and initialize the git and add all the files and save the project or git commit. Now we can see again which files are staged. That's how you usually see it. And then they all get committed and there will be a new safety status down here. And then all the files are saved as well. Great. Yes. There you go. Now they all have been saved and a new git status, a new safety status has been created. Now that we have saved everything, there is a final step that I wanted to show you guys, which is I will let the agent summarize the steps and the tasks that he did. That way I can feed that to the next agent, and yeah, the next agent will be more up to date and doesn't have to read as many files and doesn't use too many tokens already from the context window. Okay, thank you. Can you please write a summary for the next agent to take over as a prompt? Thank you. There you go. Now we'll summarize all the tasks that it has been doing, and then I will feed it to the next agent plus the actual prompt that we want the next agent to be doing. All right. Here it has created a extensive summary. As you can see, pretty complete. We want to create that, and it has actually now in the folder structure created a handoff document. It's a document here. We can actually create a folder for handoff documents and do the naming a bit better, but that's good for now. Let's leave it here and I will feed that the next agent, and let's go to the next chapter. In chapter 5, we will now continue to add functionality to our form, but now we're actually going to work on the iteration grid that we can see various variation, and we're going to fill it with mockup data. Welcome back to Cursor. I will now add a new terminal. I will start my Claude agent again by typing Claude, and I've prepared a prompt. Actually, this will be 3 different prompts that ChatGPT prepared for me. It is basically all about adding the functionality of the iteration process and connecting it to the mock API, basically giving us real data and showing functionality with the iteration process. This particular prompt from ChatGPT, as far as I understand, creates a fake backend route, and then it sends back fake data of 6 items, 6 images. So we can just test the functionality of the generate button. It's a technical prompt. We don't have to understand everything, but that's essentially what it's doing. Please execute on this prompt and also have a look at the handoff MD file, which is the summary of the former agent that worked before you, just to ensure we're all on the same page. It's a good way to save the context window and ensure that one agent to the next knows what they're actually doing. All right, now I understand the structure. It actually read the file, I believe. Now it's creating the fake API route, a fake backend route to basically, once we press generate, it will then give us back 6 fake images. But just to show that the iteration process works. All right, the mockup data has been done. Fantastic. So next step is we are creating two components for the front end, which is the variant card. Is a TSX is always another file page or component page to draw from, and the grid. So we basically want to show the image in a card, the variant, one of the 6 variants, and then it should show in a grid. So those two things we are now compiling with Shadson UI from the package. All right, it's coding away and creating those two components to be functioning and working. Saying, now I understand the structure. I need to create the component in the frontend app components directory. So it's reading the code base and checking on its progress. As I said, it's a iterative process that happens, and it continuously checks the code structure and for any mistakes to happen and actually corrects its own mistakes. It's very nice. As of now, we have not written a single line of code. We have prepared the project in ChatGPT. We have been asking it to give us good prompts for the cursor agent for every step. And so far it has delivered, and we're progressing quite nicely through our front end build here. And for me, I have to say, this is just so exciting, as I've never coded before in my life, and just to see all these folder structures here being created and the functionality being added to those files, for me, that's just a very exciting process. And I'm just trying to have a really good and professional setup while doing that along the way, but I'm also just learning. All right, perfect. It has finished. Excellent. Let me create a comprehensive summary. See, now the agent automatically already did a summary. Page component, form integration, imports and renders from the form. The API sends the post. There's a loading status and a successful handling status and error handling. And then, as far as I understand, it does pull the dummy mockup data. But let's have a look what it did. All right, let's try out our thumbnail generator. This is how it looks. So it should be working if we enter a title and we enter a prompt. And now we click on generate. In the generated variants, we should see a loading status and then 6 variant cards being created with dummy information. So let's see if that works. We generate and we see a loading status, and we have 6 variants created with the hello dummy information and our colors represented here. All right, that's a good step. Now what we're gonna do, we go back to cursor and we're gonna say, now please git commit and add this status. So we're gonna tell the agent to git commit and add all the changes that it did. And then we can start with the next agent. Very nice. All the files have been committed. Another status, safety status has been created. Very good. All right, summary, everything is working. Very good. Let's look at the last chapter. All right, we have made it to the last chapter of this episode to finish the front end part. I think it's a very good idea to always work on the front end before you add the back end and make sure that everything is working how you intend to. So as of now, we have added a lot of functionality, but now I want to upgrade and polish a little bit the UI and UX. I definitely want to change a few of the rules. I don't think it should be required to put a title every time. Also, your brand colors should be an optional choice to add for your thumbnail, not obligatory. And also, I want to just make the app a little bit prettier, add some color and everything. I have prepared again with ChatGPT some prompts, and we're going to see how that will visually upgrade the experience of the app. Let's go and look into cursor. We're going to open a new terminal, and we will type Claude to start the agent, and let's try to copy paste the first prompt. The first prompt is about the rules, the obligatory title and I think color selection. So let's put that in here, and it says update the front end validated TS, make title count optional, make the colors optional, keep prompt and the YouTube URL or the file ID obviously required, just to update those rules. So that will already improve the user experience for now. So let's see how that goes. The agent will now read the file, make sure it understands it before it will then update it. All right, it already wrote some code. Yes, let's upgrade that. Okay, we will also accept that. Once we have upgraded the rules, before we're going to look back into the application, I'm also going to use another prompt that will upgrade the app visually. Great, the agent is ready here. Perfect, I've successfully updated the validators in thumbnail generator, validators TS, front end, very great. And it made the changes. So now I don't have to fill out all the fields for it to generate me a new thumbnail. All right, let's actually now go to prompt number 2. If you will read that in a second, you will see that this is primarily about adjusting some of the colors. So the prompt reads, polish the entire front end for a cleaner UX. Those are purple, blue, and yellow are my currently defined brand colors. I want the app to represent those. Do the following: the buttons, use a gradient background, purple to blue. That sounds intense, but curious to see what comes out. Input and cards, slide border, radius, shadow when you hover, heading and labels, increase the font weight, letter spacing, section. So yeah, it will just add a lot of design to the application, as at the moment it looks quite dry. Okay, let's see what comes out. I want to emphasize that it's important that in the front end, the application looks and feels how you want it before you actually move to the back end. So it's basically step by step updating all the components to have a different look and a better design. You can see here all the files that are starting to be labeled that are in orange. Those are being touched. So the agent is actually going into all the different components in the components folder that the website draws from. Most of these components have been also imported from our packages that we have previously installed, but it's good to get an understanding how an app like this or a website like this is structured, also in terms of a folder structure. All right, we came to an end of this X update. Perfect. Now let me mark the loading overlay task as complete and create a summary of the changes. They updated the button, the input, the select, the slider, well, basically all the components, the variant grid, the generation form, and the global styling. Okay, very curious how that's gonna look. Let's open up another terminal and we're gonna write npm run dev. It looks definitely a little bit more appealing. We have a pretty button here. Layout is fine. Style, that looks all much nicer. I think here we would need to get a selection, because otherwise you're not gonna know the numbers of your brand colors by heart. So I would like to add this. Otherwise, I think it is good enough. Clearly, there's still room to improvement to improve that. Let's just say hello and generate thumbnails. It has a nicer loading state. Look, yeah, they should be probably 16:9 and not like this. But anyways, let's give that feedback maybe to the agent one more time. I think the colors needs to be somehow be selectable better, and should think about having the cards in YouTube video form, which is 16:9. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to a new terminal with Claude already open. I will say, okay, there has been done some UI UX upgrades, which I all like very much. I wanted to add 2 quick features that I think are relevant. Number 1 is the color selection. There needs to be a selection grid. No one knows the hex numbers of their colors, so please make that more user-friendly. All right, So the agent said it's done. It shows a color selector. Okay. Well, it's a starting point. I think we want the grid to be even more precise, but you know what? It's a start. It's nice that we can now choose the color and don't have to know the actual code of your color. I'm actually very happy with where we are. I think that is a great UI UX update for now. Okay, we have made it to the end of our front-end thumbnail app generator episode. I hope you can take away a lot of the workflows that we did, creating prompts with ChatGPT, developing the front end first, then moving into the back end, as well as the steps that we have undertaken, first setting up all the folder structures and installing all the packages, then moving through the sort validation schemes and a rule book, then moving into the functionality aspects of things to make it work, a quick UI UX polish at the end. And here we are. I'm very excited to go to the next episode and actually implementing the Gemini Nano Banana key so we can actually generate some real images and iterations, as well as setting up a login and a whole backend structure so our information can be saved. And we're going to dive into that in the next episode. So hopefully see you then.